Good morning and welcome to the Damp Show with me, Damp Sam. It's a Damp Show short, and as we're getting through the year, we've got different types of damp that's affecting different properties. And what I'm going to tell you about today, or what we're going to talk about today, is woodworm or beetles, timber eating beetles. What is woodworm? So woodworm is like it starts off as a larva, larva, and I think it's a bit chicken and egg. This, so it's like, so it either starts off as a larvae, and it goes into it gets laid onto a crack in a timber, or into an old flight hole, or some damp timber, and then left, and then the beetle that's laid the egg flies off and dies. The little grub thing comes out of the larva and goes into the timber, and then starts growing and feeding and growing, and as it's in timber and gnawing away and growing, it then turns into a beetle and emerges from the timber, and it will have chewed a pathway, sort of, through the wood, taking in sugars and starches and things like that, and then pulling them out in what we call a frass, which is left in tunnel until it emerges, and then it flies round again, flies towards the light, mates, and then comes back, lays eggs. And this is what's called the life cycle of a beetle, or a timber eating beetle, timber chewing beetle. One of the things that you might notice is you might see them in your windowsill, because they fly towards the light and then obviously can't get out, so they end up dying. And you'll see them on your windowsill, little beetles. You're thinking, where they come from? And some will have come in and flown in through, when you've had your windows open. But if you've got an outbreak, or if you've got an infestation somewhere, and it could be anywhere, so it can be in a subfloor, it can be in your attic, in your cellar, in bits of wood, anywhere where wood's damp, embedded joists, you could have these beetles, and they're not. It's not very nice to have, because a severe outbreak will damage the structural integrity of your timbers, and depending on what type of beetle it is, it can have a devastating effect. When a surveyor notices that it's an outbreak of the house longhorn beetle, then everybody has to be evacuated and an extent survey done, because if it's been there for years, structural timbers could be shot, so they have to do an extent survey then and find out how far it's gone. So it's like, everybody out, and then we'll do an extent survey. I don't cover that area, but if you live in and around that, in and around the southeast of England, then if you do get an outbreak, make sure you get a PCA surveyor to come and have a look at it. But most other areas of the country is going to be a common furniture beetle. You might see any exposed timbers that you've got in your subfloor, or in and around that area, any exposed timbers. You could see some like sawdust coming out of the timbers, and little pinholes. And if you see that, that could be a live outbreak. So if you tap the timber and then there's like a peppery stuff comes falling down, more than likely you've got a live outbreak. But one way to find out what you can do is, if you want to leave it for if it don't look severe, so a severe outbreak, you sort of look at an area, and if it's kind of, I don't know, say it's 10 centimetres, you just count how many holes it is. I think it's around about, is it 10 centimetres or 10 centimetres? If you've got 60 holes, that's a severe outbreak. Is it 60? I think you'd know if it was severe. You'd be able to look at it and go, that looks severe. So if you put a piece of paper over it, sellotape it to it, and you can leave it for a while. So if you've got sporadic holes, put a piece of lining paper just across your timber and leave it, and then just keep checking it. And if you've got holes that's come through your paper, then you've got a live outbreak, and you're going to need some expert advice and treating. So what do we do to treat it? This is what you're asking, isn't it? How do we treat common furniture beetle? Well, one of the things that we've got to do is just find out the extent. So you have a look at your timbers. You'd make sure that you get an expert in just to ID it and make sure that it's none of others. There's two types of beetle that can be mistaken for each other by the ordinary lay person, and I've seen in a lot of reports that I've read where I've been in cellars, or not, they've been in cellars. They've been doing valuation surveys, and they've seen some small holes near ends of joists. Straight away they've said it's common furniture beetle. And when I've gone down and had a look, these holes are a lot smaller. These decaying end at joist, and it's damp, but the holes are a lot smaller. And it turns out that it's a beetle called the wood-boring weevil. Now, wood-boring weevil lives in damp conditions, and when you dry that timber out, the wood-boring weevil just disappears. You don't need any treatments. And this is another thing as well. I've seen a lot of damp companies, I'm saying expert damp companies, PCA. I can't remember which reports I've seen, but I've seen that a lot of people have said to have these places sprayed with a treatment. Now, if it's wood-boring weevil, it don't need a treatment. You just need to make sure that timber gets dried out, whichever reason why, or how, or if you just isolate your timber, cut a pocket out, lift it up off at damp timber, off at damp masonry, slide a membrane underneath it, cut a pocket out, treat it, put a liquid DPM on it, and that'll disappear. It's a wood-boring weevil will disappear. But you still have to check it, see if there's any common furniture beetle, because they can both kind of live in a damp timber, or infest a damp timber. So you have to make sure that there's no bigger flight holes. And I mean, you've got guides to which type it is, but a lot of time, if you're an experienced surveyor, you can go and you'll just know what it is, depending on type of wood it is, whether it's a soft wood or a hard wood. If you shape your holes, type your holes, how the frass is packed in the hole, or if it's loose, or if it's clean, if there's a clean hole. If the type of frass, so if you can get frass and kind of rub it in your hands, some frass is smooth and powdery, some frass is gritty. And if you look at common furniture beetles frass under a microscope, apparently the frass little fragments are kind of lemony in shape, lemon, and gritty. So that's how you can tell. But a lot of time you can tell by just looking at holes and type of wood. Different, like these other different types of beetles that can affect timbers. I'll just run through a few. There's one called the waney edge borer. That tends to, you might see them in roof spaces, and you'll see that the edges of the joists have kind of been et into and cut off, and the burrow holes don't go any further. They only go so far in. And with that, if you find that it's a waney edge borer, you don't have to do any treatments on that. That's just a question of cutting holes back as well. So again, you need a surveyor to make sure that he identifies what the beetle is. There's an ambrosia beetle, and I know a lot of you want to say it likes rice, but or it's shaped like rice. It's called the pinhole borer. That's its nickname. And when it bores down a hole, you can put a pin in, and pin will go straight down. So holes normally quite straight, and there's little chambers off it. And it's not, if you cut wood in half, then it's normally like a dark colour. What else we got? Death watch beetle. So death watch beetle. Apparently, I've never come across an outbreak of death watch beetle, but there's knocking when you're in get them in a lot of churches. Death watch beetles. Estobium ruffvillosum. I used to be able to say that, but can't say it now. And that's emerges in March to June, believe it or not. And this can sort of make a great mess at timbers. It affects sapwoods and heartwoods of hardwoods, usually oak, which have partially decayed. And softwoods are rarely attacked, so a lot of churches have got oak beams. And if it's been exposed to a lot of rain in one area, if there's been a roof tile out, then oak beams might have got wet and started to decay on outside. So then you could get these death watch beetles having a chew. Powder posts, they what tends to happen with powder posts is it attacks like oaks and things like that, and this is one of them where it's got a fine, well, like I said, powdery frass. So that's one of the reasons, things that you can notice about that, and it tends to be in like oaks and things like that. Stairs, like if you've got like a new stairs and you find it in there in newels and rails and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to get these identified by an expert if you see any. These treatments out there that you can go and buy off shelf, but you need to know what you're dealing with. So you need to know what type of beetle it is, because if it's only a wood boring weevil, you don't need to be buying any stuff. So it's just a question of isolating and drying timbers out. And if it's a death watch beetle, why are you living in a church? You know what I mean? It's you're gonna have to get somebody to have a look at it and just to make sure. Sometimes they can be trapped. Timbers can be trapped with, like I said, the off the shelf sprays and things like that. But the places that we use, like, which is like Safeguard, Sovereign, they do their own treatments. A lot of them are boron based, and they're quite effective and strong. So so that's it. I think I just wanted to make people aware that this is time of year when they start to come out. So keep your eyes peeled. Have a look on them windowsills, and if you think that you keep, you know, if you're in house and you're going, how come we keep getting these little things on windows? You know, are you leaving windows open? Is somebody leaving windows open here? There might be another reason. So it could be up in roof space, cellar, in subfloor, and they'll fly up through cracks in floors and head towards light, and then down at windowsill. But if you keep getting them, then you might have an issue. So what you need to do is ring a qualified surveyor, get in touch with PCA, and do a postcode search on PCA website. You'll find your nearest qualified, competent contractor surveyor, and he'll come out and have a look and ID it and maybe do an extent survey, and then he'll tell you what's needed. So another tip, if you're buying an house, so have a look for these. If you're buying an house and you're having a look round, just remember, have a look on windowsill and just see if there's a lot of these little beetles and flies on windowsill. So if there's, that could be a sign that they've got woodworm or common furniture beetle. So it may need a more extensive survey than the valuation survey that they're going to do, because your valuation survey ain't going to pick this up. The guy is just going to tell you what it's worth. So that's Damp Sam. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of information, and I hope it's going to help you with your property in future. Have a brilliant day, and see you on the next one. Ta-da!